Well, first of all, when I got there, I was in HAMS 15 as a aircrew survival equipment man, which is better pronounced as parachute rigger. In HAMS, we did all the repacks every 180 days. The chutes came out of the aircraft that was in that phase of inspection. We took them up to UDORN and repacked everything, signed off on them. They went back to the squadrons, got reinstalled. At one point, I was transferred from HAMS 15 to VMFA 232, the Red Devils, the most decorated squadron in the Marine Corps, the oldest fighter squadron in the Marine Corps. And really loved it. The first thing I got to do when I got there was clean all the survival pistols. And I got to eat Jiffy Paw. Now, you had a choice. You could use the sterno, okay, which doesn't provide the right amount of heat, or you could go into the toolbox and get this little thing of clay that looked like window putty and roll that up in a ball and light it. That was C4 and gave a nice, perfect heat to do Jiffy Pop popcorn. So got through that and really enjoyed Nam Pong as a whole, okay? The best way to put it was like a big unsupervised Boy Scout campout with aircraft and things that blew up. Now, we had a couple of things that come up. One, there was a lot of abuse with drugs and alcohol. That's no secret. There was an instance where a person from another shop requisitioned a survival pistol from the flight equipment shop and went and shot his NCOIC in the back because he was not happy about a modification that was done to his hooch. The big porch that the general saw and didn't like was unceremoniously picked up with an RT forklift, taken out and dumped. And this gentleman, and I'm not going to name names, everybody knows who he is, stole a 6x, went through the gate. Half my shop was locked up for a bit of time because they assisted in this by getting him money and such. So there's a big court martial, and bottom line, they screwed it up and he got off. So that was one thing that was kind of seminal and made you look at things and go, there are bad guys here from time to time. It was a melting pot of every culture in the United States you can think of, from farm boys to inner city. There's no better way to put it. The Marine Corps is one big stew pot of humanity. And you either learn to get along or you have issues. So there's that. And then they have humorous parts to it. The Bob Hope show was fantastic. We made sure we got good seats. I took a prop with me. And I'll pull this up real quick. What you see here, if you can see this, is...
Hold it to the lens.
Got it?
Yes.
That is me in 1972, December 22nd, the Bob Hope show, with one of the camp dogs that might have come from Major Wolfer, who was the other camp dog that was imported from Da Nang. I won't go into that story because I'm sure other people have told it. Major Wolfer has flight time in the backseat of a Phantom, allegedly. As far as the work schedule, it was 24/7, 7 days a week. You got time off maybe if somebody could cover your shift, and you go to UDORN for a 36-hour pass.
What was your unit?
VMFA 232, the Red Devils, F4J Phantoms, and I had two COs while I was there. The first one was Colonel Lawrence. He's since passed. And then Major Jim Meade, who passed, I believe, in the last few months. But both outstanding leaders. One thing that sticks out in my mind now as a parachute rigger and the squadron level, we worked really closely with the air crew and got to know them quite well. Sam Cordova was one of our pilots, and who his backseater was on the around the 19th or 20th of August escapes me, but they were coming back into Nampong. They had nav problems with their equipment. There's haze. They flamed out about 5 miles off the end of the runway and had to leave the aircraft. They both survived. They went out in the CH-46s and picked them up, brought them in. Well, when that happens, the riggers have to take all their gear and survey it, whether it's still usable or not. So they get new helmets, torso harnesses, survival vests, the whole 9 yards. And the conversation I had with Captain Cordova at the time was, what are the chances of you getting shot down? Which, one, spoke to my ignorance and blissful stupidity of being back in the rear. The chances of getting shot down were real good.
Really?
So, and the issue was I couldn't find the right color green paint to camouflage his helmet. And remember the old chromate green primer?
Yes.
I got some of that, and I tiger striped his helmet with the green and brown and black, and had the conversation. Here you go, and said, "What are the chances of getting shot down?" A week later, the day before his 27th birthday, he was shot down by a North Vietnamese ace, Win Duc Sot, who ended up as a general in the NVA Air Force. But we got his backseater recovered. We didn't get Sam back, and that ate at me for years. One, because of the conversation I had with him. In '88, I was driving a truck, came to a stop, and for whatever reason, the dock I was in, I had some spare time, and I looked it up, and I found out in 1988 they repatriated his remains. And it was a very emotional discovery. And, here I am, big tough guy, truck driver, Marine, and I'm in the cab of my truck crying like a baby. I took it very personally if we lost an air crew. Sam sticks out in my mind. When Bill Anderson ejected, Donnie Brewer was his backseater. We didn't get Donnie back. And I blocked it out. I blocked it out for years. I didn't even remember it. And in 2018, 2018, I went to the Red Devil reunion in Colorado Springs, and Bill was there, and I hadn't seen him since I'd been on active duty. Mm-hmm. And I went up and talked to him about it. He ejected somewhere over 400 knots, going in real hot. For him to survive that with just the minimal amount of injuries he had, strains and such, was phenomenal. But we talked about it. Bill was a real buff specimen at the time, basically no neck. And I saw him in 2018, and I could have passed him on the street and wouldn't have known who he was. But he went on, and I think had a career with the LA County Sheriff or LA Police Department as a helicopter pilot. But it was the loss of aircrew that really hit me. Even today, if I hear, particularly a Marine aircraft going down for whatever reason, it really hits me in the heart that, we lost crew. I was fortunate enough, I stayed in the reserves after I got off active duty and basically spent 17 years in the same unit with VMGR 234, KC-130Fs, and eventually Ts. And you call it a brotherhood, you call it a family, you call it a cult, whatever you want, but throughout the Marine Corps, the one thing I learned, we have each other's back. We may be fighting tooth and nail right now, but somebody messes with your brother, you're in. So, you know, it was certainly a time where I went from being a man boy to being a man and learning how to lead, learning how to motivate my troops. I was fortunate enough to pick up meritorious corporal because I was a good boy, or didn't get caught. More or less didn't get caught, but you know, I enjoyed every bit of the Marine Corps I had. And the God's honest truth, as austere as Rose Garden was, it was my favorite place.
And would you say that's a common theme among most of us from Nanfang?
I think so.
I agree.
I think it really is, because you know what? It's like being a fireman. You sit there and train and train and train, and maybe there's going to be a fire. We were in the fire. You know, granted, we weren't getting shot at, you know, per se, like they were in country, but what we did as far as the maintainers and the air crew, be it F4 drivers, A6 drivers, C-130 drivers, CH-46 drivers, that whole conglomeration working as a team, I believe if we had not been there, the communists would have kept coming after Cambodia and Laos and gone right into Thailand. And I think there's other people that will agree with that.
What advice would you give a new Marine recruit heading to the theater of conflict?
Oh boy. Well, first and foremost, keep every set of orders that they ever hand you in chronological order, because you never know when you're going to have to refer back to that. And what I'm talking about in that respect is there's no doubt in my mind that we were sprayed with an herbicide. If you look at pictures from back then, you see everything outside the wire about 20 meters was a beautiful dusty brown or orange, depending where you were. If you go further in, it stayed like that till you got around, oddly enough, where the general's quarters were. And then you get out by the flight line and the runways and nothing but dust. You look at it now, it's nice and green. So it just didn't die on its own. Stuff happened. You know, there's a number of us that have had serious health problems over the years. Myself, I'm a diabetic, non-insulin dependent. There's certainly others that have had worse issues with problems with childbirth, where their kids have had spina bifida and whatever, or they've had heart issues, diabetes issues, neuropathy issues, and you know, hopefully this is going to get resolved soon with the legislation that's in Congress. But it just, I can't think of any one event that cemented how I feel, you know, particularly about VMFA 232. That was the squadron I went to war with. Okay, granted, we were in the rear, but because we had to do our jobs so the pilots could go into Cambodia and Laos and North Vietnam and continue to prosecute the air war, we were an integral part of Marine Corps history. You know,
It was a team effort.
absolutely. And you know what? If I had to make the same decisions today that I made then, I says, yeah, I'm in. Because I volunteered. And here's what you got to understand. I look at life as a Rubik's Cube. Depending how you turn that thing depends which direction your life goes. Okay? So I volunteered for orders to go to the Western Pacific. Okay? I was at El Toro at the time. I was a young Lance Corporal. And I was there for about 3 months. I left in June, got over to Nampong, because when I got to Iwakuni, everybody was gone. And I said, oh, okay. And, you know, let's make the best of this. I made meritorious corporal. I had authority and responsibility, more responsibility than I'd ever had in my entire life. And because I made those decisions back then, and because Lynn Anderson released the song in 1970 and the Marine Corps picked up the recruiting slogan, "We don't promise you a rose garden," in 71, and because we named that beautiful place Marine Corps Air Station Rose Garden, my wife and I are now retired in Culleoka, Tennessee, mainly because of Lynn's daughter, Lisa. She says, "I know a builder and a realtor that I'm friends with." So it's funny how you do something 50 years ago and it goes full circle, and here we
Butterfly
are.
effect.
Yeah, exactly. And here we are doing this interview.